again, this lesson we're going to look at sight reading and how notes are written down on a page. So very clearly, straight away we can see the notes are written from left to right. They go along from the left to right on the page. And there are 5 lines that the notes are written on. And you can see them here clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As the notes sound higher, they'll be written higher up on the page where the cursor is here. For instance, this note C, if it's played higher, it appears higher on the page. And a higher C again is higher still. You can see down here the corresponding note on the keyboard. That's middle C, where the right hand or the blue notes, as we've labelled them, begin, and the green notes of the bass clef or the left hand end. There it is there. That's how it's written. So we're just going to go through the notes individually. We'll always start on C. The musical alphabet starts on C and rather than A. So there's middle C, our first note. We're going to move up to D, the next note beside it. Remember the groups? We did the 2 black notes, the 3 black notes, the very first exercise to find out where the notes are. And just before the 2 black notes, you drop down to get C. And just before the 2 or the 3 black notes, you drop down to get F. So that's C at the 2 black notes. Sorry, we'll do that again. That C is that C, or that middle C, higher C, higher C, higher C. And you can see here where the notes on the page get higher and higher and lower as we come down. But it's always the same. It's always, C will always be where those 2 black notes, just drop down a note onto those 2 black notes. F likewise, we're going to demonstrate F. There's the higher F. There he is, going higher. There's another high F there, even higher again. And you'll notice when you run out of lines, you have to start manufacturing lines, like scaffolding almost, to make the note appear higher on the page. If you just stuck the note on like that there without those lines, it would be free falling through space and it would be very hard to guess what the note is. Those lines are called ledger lines. We'll deal with them later. So we're just going to come back down to lower F. There it is there. Lower F again. So you'll get a very clear idea starting on middle C. There it is. C here. We're going to move up note by note now. There's D. It's blue on the page. E. F. G. A. B. C. D. E. F. G. A. B. And finally on C. And those are all the notes that we're going to deal with in the treble clef. When I mention the word treble clef, this is what I talk about here, where the cursor is. There's a symbol right here at the beginning of the bar, and that's called the treble clef. And that'll indicate if you're going to be dealing with higher notes, or we'll call it the right hand for now, or lower notes, which would be the bass clef, but we're not going to deal with the bass clef in this lesson. So the treble clef is written like that. Anytime you see the clef like that there, automatically you're dealing with your right hand. So there is a pattern of remembering note names. If we're to consider the notes, there are lines and spaces. We talked about the 5 lines here where the cursor is. 1, I'm just going to zoom in so you can see it more clearly. There are 5 lines, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And there are also 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we consider the notes on the spaces, the first is F. Remember the 3 black notes and we drop down to find F? There it is. So the next note on the next space is A. And you'll notice it here. We started on F, we skipped over to A. We skipped that G there because that's a note on a line. So if you're going to skip a note on a line, there's the line, you're going to skip G and go to A. Following the same logic, you're going to skip this B because it's a note on a line, and you're going to go to C. So we're skipping B and we're going to go to C. Oops. There it is. And finally, if we're going to skip that D and go to the last space, there it is, there it is. The notes on the lines follow the very same logic. You start, oh yeah, in order to remember the notes on the spaces, the rhyme that you'll remember is F, A, C, E, which spell the note, or spells the word face. Next we're going to deal with the notes on the lines. If we start on E, there it is there. That's the E above middle C, C, D, E. That first line corresponds with this E on the keyboard. So E. Now if we're going to skip F, we're going to go to G, which is here. We're going to now go to B, which is here. We're going to go to D, corresponding note on the line, note on the page. F, the final F, there it is. Remember the 3 black notes, there's the higher F. So we're skipping E, G, B, D, F. We're skipping the notes on the spaces, which are F, A, C, and E. So the notes on the lines, the first letters will correspond with the words every good boy deserves fruit. Every good boy deserves fruit. E, G, B, D, F. The final notes we're going to look at. This is a very important note. This is your yardstick where the musical alphabet begins. It's middle C. It's recognizable on the page because it's not on a line or a space, but it is written beneath the first line, and it has a slash through it. It always reminded me of a cowboy hat, so that's how you're going to remember it. It's at the bottom of the staff, or the treble clef is here. The lines are on the staff, so it's at the very bottom beneath the first line. There's C, there it is, and the note next to it in the alphabet is D. There's the neighbouring D on the page. It's the neighbouring note in the alphabet. It's equally recognisable because it's the note just before the first line. These will be easy to remember. The more you play them, the more you recognise them, the more you'll see them. Finally, we're going to look at 4 notes at the top of the scale. So we have high G, A, B, and C. High G, high A, high B, and high C. Equally recognizable because that G sits on the top line, and it's also the note after F on the keyboard, which is here. Remember, you drop down from the 3 black notes to F. There's your G. Now you just follow logic. Ascend to A. Next note in the alphabet is B, or B. And the final note is C. That A also looks like middle C, except it's at the other end of the staff. It's up above the first, or it's up above the final line. Obviously, it's written higher because it's higher on the keyboard. This B is sitting on a ledger line. Remember, we talked about the scaffold lines, the ledger lines. So that B, in order to be recognizable, needs a line underneath it. If you can imagine writing those notes just as circles without the ledger lines, they'd be very hard to recognize. They would just be circles sitting in space. So that's the whole logic of ledger lines. And it basically points out where exactly the note value is relative to the lines. So take your time, look at those notes, revise this video if you're stuck. G, A, B, C. We'll go back to face, F, A, C, E. They're the notes on the spaces. Here are the notes on the lines. We'll make it a bit smaller so you can see it all. Every, good, boy, deserves, fruit. And once more, I'm going to demonstrate from middle C right up to high C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so we're going to do a few exercises now that's going to help you remember or to try and play the notes on the lines and spaces in order to remember them. Okay, here's an exercise for you to get going with notes on lines and notes on spaces in the treble clef. Remember, we talked about the treble clef being shaped here, and to simplify it, it'll be referring to the right hand or higher notes. So remember, every good boy deserves fruit. Now, let's try this exercise. The first line, you're going to play along with the keyboard here. You're going to see the notes. In the second line, I'm going to disable the keyboard and you're going to have to play the notes yourself. Okay? So play along. E, B, B, F, D, E, B, E, B, G, G, F, E, D, B, F. Okay, so the next line, you're going to do it without the keyboard. See how you get on. B, E, F, D, D, B, E, D, B, D, G, F, E, B, B, E. Okay, so that probably was a little bit challenging, but a tip for you. Um, you could always sketch this graph out of the notes on the lines and have it on your desk beside you as you do these exercises. In the beginning, it's probably going to be a little bit challenging associating the notes with the lines or spaces depending on the exercise, but you're going to be breaking the sequence of every good boy deserves fruit. These notes E, G, B, D, F aren't going to be written in that straight sequence all the time. They're mixed up here. They're scrambled. And the reason they are scrambled in these exercises is because in music is the very same as alphabets in language. Words and letters are put together. Uh, you don't sit down and read the alphabet on a page over and over again. The alphabets are used to make words. This is all scrambled up to make an exercise because in music the notes on the lines are going to appear scrambled up. So we're going to try the third line here, and I'm going to give you the keyboard this time so you can have a guide. Here it is. Okay, so we're going to be on B, starting on B. Okay, we'll start on B. B, F, F, same note. F, D, B, D, D, B, G, G, F, D, E, E. So this time we're going to take it a step further. I'm just going to play the notes. I'm not going to call out note names. That's up to you. I'm going to leave the keyboard graphic up for now. And finally, I'm going to disable the keyboard so you can't see it, and you're going to play the notes as I play them. So good luck. Ready? Now let's try notes on the spaces. Same exercise. We're going to get the graphic up first so you can see it. I'll just give you some revision here. There's F, there's A, there's C, there's E. All appeared as I was playing them on the keyboard. So ready? Hamming exercise number 5. It's another useful one, so I'm just going to play the notes. It's similar to the last one, but like all of them, they're slightly different and present new challenges. This is the notes of the right hand. Notes of the left hand. Fingering of the right hand. 1, 5, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2, 3. Fingering of the left hand. 5, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3. So your left and right hand, the fingering is flipped. It's mirror imaged. If I were to call out what I'm playing, my fingers in the left hand at the same time as the right, they wouldn't be the same. I'd be calling out 5 and 1 simultaneously at the start, and vice versa on the A. It'd be 5 in the right and 1 in the left. So that just is impractical. All I can do is call out the sequence one hand at a time, as I've just done. It's up to you then to institutionalize the fingering, the shape of the sequence. And move it up. And move it up. So, two hands. This is where we change and go back down. Now, you'll notice that at the end of every 8 notes there, I was pausing. Like this. I was just doing that to give you a chance to regroup so that you could think about where you were going next. Because when you're playing these exercises, you play them pretty much without stopping. There's no pausing. So, might be a good idea when you're getting the hang of it to do a nice pause so you can think about where you're going next. Okay, next note is D. It's going to be 5th finger in the left hand, thumb on the right. You have all these little things to think about. Then you have to think about the sequence. It's okay maybe to pause, okay to slow it down too. All these things are okay when you're practicing, because it's not a performance. This is not a performance. This is just about getting your technique right, making sure your hands are nice and relaxed. Your hand is cupped, your wrist is nice and relaxed, you're not rigid, your hands aren't flat. Everything is just controlled and you flow.